I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Has council had the opportunity to review the meeting minutes from June 20th? If so, how do you wish to proceed?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any changes to this evening's agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion for the set agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Guests in open forum. Seeing no one, we will move into committee reports. Fire Board, we met and we spent a lot of time on the 2024 budget and CIP, laying that out for our joint meeting on July 17th at 8 p.m. at the Township Hall. And then we also signed our financial service agreement with Red Path, which will begin in 2024. They'll be taking on the financial aspects for the Fire Board. How about Planning Commission?
Planning Commission, we had a meeting. We had an agenda item for Oakwood Church, the site plan proof of parking. That was the one that was stayed from a month ago. That one was affirmed. There was also a couple public hearings, which were for 8A and 8B, which are on our agenda for tonight. So we will save that for then.
Okay. Golf Committee.
We did not have an official meeting.
All right. Joint Planning Board, we did a pre and final plat application for a application from the township, and those were approved, and that was about it. Any other committee reports? None. We'll move into board, committee, and consultant reports. Preliminary and final plat for Energy Park 9th edition. Mr. Sanders.
Evening, Mayor, Council. For you tonight, we have Energy Park 9th edition. We're getting up there in numbers on Energy Park. It's been around for a number of years. So in our talks, and later on you'll hear from Renee about the purchase agreement. In our talks with Country Lumber about them relocating from Bank Street to this side of the road, the site layout wasn't as conducive to development, and several of them actually wouldn't be really that conducive to more constructive development for sites, so circulation, things like that. And as a result, we kind of made the conclusion that we could replat these lots and make them a little more angular, square, which makes it more development friendly. All for Country Lumber, but also for the lots as we sell them in the future. So those are in yellow. What you're seeing in the RCA is just what they are currently. And then on the plat, there is one change that's indicated in the resolutions that we're requesting approval for, and that is shown in that figure 1.2 in the RCA. And that shows that outlot is actually shaped kind of like a flagpole. The proposal would be just to move 33 feet on that eastern side in yellow, and that would become its own outlot, and then you would create just one regular lot in the blue. And that lot in the blue would become buildable at the time that it's served with utilities. So those would be the proposals. Both the preliminary and final plat resolutions are conditioned with that indicated in there so that it's covered about the outlot. And with that, there we are seeking motion in a second approving the prelim and final plat, so resolution 2372 and 2373 for Energy Park 9th edition, and I'll stand for any questions.
This was approved at Planning Commission.
And we didn't have any public comment there at the Planning Commission nor written comment.
Yep, this one seemed to make sense, just kind of squaring up the lots.
Mm-hmm.
One note I will make is there's some drainage utility easements that go through the current lots. with the reorientation of the lot lines, we'll be bringing that in August for vacation of those portions of the easement that we have to kind of erase. But that does require a public hearing here at council, so we'll be doing that at the August meeting. Requires a couple weeks publication notice as well.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2372 approving the preliminary plat for Energy Park 9th edition.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, carried.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2373 approving the final plat for Energy Park 9th edition.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion on that? With none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
You. Driveway variance, Mr. Sanders.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, Council. The property owner for this variance is here tonight, so if you have any questions, you can ask him as well. But this is a variance that was, we used Stantec for this one, and they did a great job on putting this together. We don't often come across variance approvals. They're fairly rare and far in between, but this one makes a lot of sense. It meets all of the statutory requirements and the ones that are in code for a driveway variance. The issue with this lot is, as you can see in that figure on the first page in the RCA, there's a really large drainage utility easement at the back. All of the water slopes back that way. The house, because of the pie shape, it's also really difficult. It doesn't matter if you turn the house or not. Putting it on the other side of the yard would be almost impossible as well, just due to room and steep yards. And then on that southwest side, where he would like to put the parking pad, he has a wider than normal drainage and utility easement, again, because the drainage goes through that side of the property towards the back. Typically, the drainage utility easements in these plats are 5 or 6 feet on those lines, not 10 feet. So the request that he wants to put in this pad, due to the steepness of his lot, the contours of the lot, all of those are fairly natural features that weren't caused by him. It's the topography of the site that's causing this. He can't put it in the back or the side. Makes a lot of sense to do this. It would be a 5-foot variance to encroach into the drainage utility easement. And then in the resolution, you will notice that we're also, he will sign a waiver of liability agreement with the city, and that the variance approval does also approve his encroachment of 5 feet into that drainage utility easement. But the waiver of liability just waives any liability against the city if anything happens with that parking pad or anything. That's on the property owner to pay for that. So with that, we're seeking a motion and second approving resolution 2371, approving the variance for I'm not gonna go through the whole, 13242 Jefferson Street for encroachment into the drainage utility easement. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Well, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2371 approving the encroachment of the drainage utility easement at 13242 Jefferson Street.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our agenda, change order number 1 for project 3. It does state number 3, but it is number 1 for project 3. Mr. Knutson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the Mayor said, we are looking at change order number 1 for project 3, which is the force main connecting from Energy Drive to the new pump station and then coming under Highway 10 and making its way to the wastewater plant. So as the plans called out, we were putting the force main. We didn't want to open cut Energy Drive for a couple of reasons. One, it's pretty new, and the amount of truck traffic that's serviced over there. We didn't want to have to detour and impact the businesses if we didn't need to. So it was called out for a caisson to be put underneath there, and it was a 20-inch that was proposed. When they do the work, they actually put their test pilot bore through to see what they can determine what's in the path of the pipe. And it encountered quite a bit of cobble and some boulders. And so we met on site with them, reviewed the project and looked at it. And the concern that we have, it calls out in the contract that if we put that 20-inch through there and they can't make it through, and they've got to pull it out and reposition it and try another shot, that falls on the city to pay that expense. So the alternative to that was to increase the size of the boring pipe under the road. The reason you do that is that they can go in there and hand jack or dig the boulders out if they need to. They'll send somebody through the pipe as they're cleaning it out and make that happen. So as we started talking through that, staff with engineering said, well, could we put a second carrier pipe in there for future growth should we need it? It's similar to what we're doing actually on Highway 10. So we only have to disturb the area one time. So we ran the numbers on that, and the cost difference between a 36-inch pipe and a 42-inch pipe was very limited, within a few $1,000s of one another on an increase. And the contractor, we actually priced out a 42-inch pipe to start with on Highway 10. So we had some of those material costs from the bid process. So when all was said and done, the final number on the change order came out to be, I think it was $88,000. Yeah, $88,050. And that includes the 42-inch pipe and a secondary carrier pipe being placed in there to the edge of the right-of-way. So should business improve over there, the XL properties build out, or they look to annex more property and feed it through the phase 2 of the business park build out, this would be in position to just basically connect to it when the time is right. The pipe is already there. So we felt that it was probably the prudent thing to do, knowing the cobble that we saw, and to keep the project rolling. So with that, they went to the contractor, got the formal change order, and that's why we're here tonight. So we did review this at Public Works in June. We didn't have the exact dollars at that point in time, but there was approval given to bring it here tonight for full consideration. So with that, that's what I'm here for, and I can answer any other questions should you have them.
So like Mr. Knutson said, we discussed this at Public Works. As long as this was contingency money from allocation already for the project,
Correct.
which hasn't been used, and it's grant money as well, so therefore, it just made the most sense to go forward.
We're still within our contingency, or?
Yes, this is the first issue, or use of any contingency for that project. So that's what we feel comfortable with what we're looking to do. Not that we wouldn't have anything else that's running into it, but we're seeing on Project 2 and Project 4 so far that our unit pricing, we're well within our contract amount and likely will be under some of those contract amounts. So even if we were to have to use other contingency money, we'd still have probably some reserves from Project 2 and Project 4 as well. So staff feel very comfortable with what we're doing, that we're not going to exceed contingency just for 3, and probably have a few other dollars that we would look from Project 2 and 4 as well.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1 with R.L. Larson Excavating for the business park pump station improvements.
I'll second that.
Motion from Robin, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks. Moving into administrator and staff reports. Street surfacing.
We just like throwing new words out there so we could.
Yeah, microsurfing.
One of the things that staff has wrestled around with is as you guys remember, when we looked at Sherburne South on the chip seal, the fog seals, some of those things, and some of the delamination that's occurred within the community. The jury's out and kind of all over the board on what the best next step in our pavement protection should be. So we've looked at, a few years ago on 3rd Street from Hancock up to Brenda, we tried microsurfacing. It provides, it's not just a cosmetic look. Sometimes the seal coating just gives you a paint job. It does add some oil to the bituminous, and it does extend the life of it. But the microsurfacing adds a little bit thicker emulsion, adds more chemicals to it, and provides a better top surface, kind of binds that existing asphalt together. So we tried 3rd Street as a prelim just to see if it would work out in the community, and it's held up very well to our, not surprise, but we were a little on the fence, is this going to work or not? Coming out of last year's winter, we hadn't seen one like that in a while, so we've had a few streets that showed a little more degradation than we would hope for. So what we're trying to do is go into some of these communities where we can get some life extension out of these streets and not have to repair them sooner and have some big CIP dollars being spent on street reconstruction. So the microsurfacing, since it held up so well on 3rd Street, we had Farner, who did the work, come in, and they were the low bid. We looked at Aztec as well. Aztec couldn't give us a quote this year because they just knew they couldn't get to the project. They were quite a bit higher, about 18% higher on the original bid last year for some of the work that we weren't able to do. So we kind of honed in with Farner. They did the work. They did a good job with it. And we had them come through some of our neighborhoods and do a street walkthrough with us. We identified some of the streets that are called out here, Hancock being one of them, over Peter, Nature's Edge development, a portion of that development, and part of River Bend development to come in there. Our goal is to capture some of these streets that are in pretty decent shape and get roughly, in some cases, 5+ years out of them, in most cases at least 3 years out of them, which we're comfortable doing. So that'll help our CIP as it relates to the reconstruction portion of that. So we're just trying to invest. We don't want to chase bad money and put something down that we got to tear up the street in a year or two. So that's why we looked at these specific roads that we're putting in place. The one thing with Farner, until we have an approval and a signed contract, they won't put us on their schedule. So there's no assurances that they can actually do it for us this year. And as you see, in this year's CIP, we had $135,000 dedicated for this line item. We have, I believe it's 75,000 next year, 70 or 75,000. So the ask this year is a little bit higher than what our current year CIP is, and we would just use that money next year because it may get pushed into next year. So if approval is given tonight, we can sign the contract. If they can get us in, they will get us in this year. Otherwise, we'll be first out on the agreement next year. So we're hopeful that we can get it done this year. We'd like to see that because we don't want to risk another winter if we can avoid it. But that's where it's at. So we wouldn't look to overspend on the CIP line item and then come back at budget time and ask for more money on this line item next year. We would hold flat to what that profile looks like and then spend less next year. But this could be a 2024 spend though as well.
What year was 3rd Street done? I don't remember.
This is our 3rd summer. So doing the math, 2020.
This year was, spring was the first I noticed of any degradation whatsoever was this year. And it's minor as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, we were very surprised at how well, we thought those cracks would reflect a lot faster and we'd see some breakup over there, but it's held together pretty well, and it's a very high, from a residential standpoint, it's a very highly used street as well. So
There's trucks that go on it too.
yes. Again, our streets, I mean, we're seeing, we've got 4 different garbage carriers in the street, so you're seeing those at least 4 days a week that are using it as well, plus the recyclers too. So
I noticed that like Brenda Avenue
yes,
was taken off.
yes.
That seems to be like really beat up.
Yep, we're actually working on that. It's a good point because it's part of our CIP in our streets. You're going to see a different request for streets reconstruction for next year's plan. We don't feel, nor do our engineers or Farner feel like putting this product on that street is a good investment. Okay. We're actually looking at Brenda
Going into Nature's Edge. It's
on the other side of Edgewood. Brenda and even Joseph, you'll see that was crossed off because we're looking at putting those into our 2024 street reconstruction project. So you'll see that at budget time. So what we're trying to do is attack all of our 1 and 2 streets, which are our worst streets for reconstruction. But we're going to get a little bit creative because we've been trying to go into neighborhoods and do the entire neighborhood at one time when we can. I don't think we're going to have that happen next year. We're going to have to see some, like in that case, some perimeter streets. You know, that gets the most traffic in your area, but Catherine doesn't get as much. It's a great candidate to get us an extension within that development. That's why Catherine is called out there, or Peter's called out there. But Brenda and Joseph in that neighborhood are ones that we think we need to reconstruct. But if you look at the 39th, I think is what it's labeled on there, the whole development is looking to be done because they feel that we can extend that 5 years to do the whole thing. That's why we'd look to do that. Next year, we already have identified Elk Wind and Fossum, with the exception of 153rd and Lobelia. Those are very highly trafficked, and we're trying to figure out how we can fit those into our CIP for reconstruction as well. So
So it was just the weather that really beat the roads up, basically.
a lot of it is, we seem to get more freeze thaws in February, January, February, and that just kills it. And then when we have some thaws, and you don't get the water off the street and it sits there, it just almost eats away at the bituminous, so. We're not the only ones seeing it.
No, I know. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure it wasn't a material issue or a construction, but
Nope.
just a weather.
Yep. And some of this stuff, that's why when we're reconstructing our streets, we're going to, at a minimum, a light 9-ton design. We're doing that with the fact that, some of these streets were put in the community as a 5-ton road. We've just learned our lesson. We shouldn't do that. We should go to a heavier, because of the bus traffic, the truck traffic, the delivery traffic, all of those types of things. And we're gonna see a much longer longevity to this. And this is just part of the process that we've identified, as we've studied it and worked with our engineers, that this can give us a better life extension on our streets, so we can truly get that 25, 30, 35 year on a very quality street.
Any issue if, we bid it this year and it doesn't work till next year and they'll hold the price on the
Yep,
price?
they're honoring the price. That's why we're looking to get it out there right now. He's hopeful that we can still get it done this year. I can't remember the temperature. Chris and Corey have been doing most of the legwork on this. Chris is on vacation, so I told him I would run with it, so we didn't delay it any longer. But there's a cutoff point. I want to say it's like roughly October 1st, maybe October 15th would be the latest that we would let them do the work, because we don't want the temperatures to get out of whack, where overnight low could not adhere the product the way it needs to be. But yeah, to your point, Rick, if approval is given, we sign the contract, they're honoring it until the work is done.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2375, allowing staff to hire Farner to complete microsurfacing on Becker City streets for a proposed cost of $146,314.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Country Lumber Purchase Agreement, Mrs. Regal.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I come before you with resolution, hold on,
2374.
2374. Thank you. As you know, we've been in conversation with Country Lumber, and this will bring a purchase to fruition. They are interested in purchasing 10 acres in our business park to relocate and expand over there. The lots are a part of the Energy Park 9th edition that Jacob had mentioned. On February 21st of this year, City Council did approve setting the price of city-owned industrial lots at $1 per square foot. So doing the math on 10 acres, that brings us to $435,600. We would use the proceeds from the sale to pay existing tax assessments on those lots, and no subsidy hearing would be required for that. The city attorney has reviewed and approved the attached purchase agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, looking for a motion and second to approve Resolution 2374.
This is a nice expansion for this existing business.
It would free up a lot of
Yeah,
retail property.
yeah, it's definitely a move in the right way. So,
Make a motion to approve resolution 2374, authorizing the purchase agreement and sale of property owned by City of Becker to Country Lumber.
I'll second that.
motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Township JPA, OAA, and a PS letter, but no PSS. Mr. Sanders, welcome back.
Thank you. It's a mouthful of abbreviations.
Of acronyms, yes.
As you know, we love those in planning. Thank you, Mayor, Council. So as discussed a couple months ago, we had a discussion, an executive session about the joint powers agreement, the orderly annexation agreement, and the planning services, zoning, and services agreement. And part of this stems out of our conversations with solar and other conversations we've had with the township on that front. This is a bigger conversation about our growth area of the city, where we're planning for in the future. This is for the public so they know we do have an agreement with the township to do joint planning with them. As part of that orderly annexation agreement and joint powers agreement, there are some changes that we have requested that were discussed. We did incorporate the comments that were made at that meeting related to how many, members should be on the board, other things like that. There will be more to be flushed out. This is kind of the beginning point of further conversations that will occur with the township. They're doing the same thing on their side. So we mentioned that we would bring this back to you for any further comments that you would like to have added or any changes or adjustments prior to sending. The adjustments are, again, a beginning point of further collaboration. So there's a lot in there. We wanted to make sure this was as comprehensive as we possibly could get it on the front end, not, coming back and saying, hey, we forgot this. This, we feel, is a fairly comprehensive look at whether all these occur or not. Again, that'll be part of ongoing conversations. But with that, we would just seek, this one doesn't require resolution, but motion a second approving the attached letter and approving submittal to the Becker Town Board. And with that, I will stand for any questions. And there's a lot in here, so.
Yeah, and it's definitely a catch-all. It's a
Yep.
everything written down per se,
Yes.
so.
I didn't have any issue with it, and it looked like going with two of each seemed to be the right way. 'Cause
Yeah,
the three
I agree.
would,
Yeah,
Yeah, it definitely, yes. Makes things a little easier, so.
How many town board members do they have? They have 5?
5, yep.
They have 3 on there currently.
Yeah, they have, on the joint planning currently, they have 2 town board members and then 1 who's not elected there, he's appointed, but from the township.
Is he a voting member?
yes.
Yep.
Because then they have a quorum there then.
He's not he's not a town board supervisor. He's just a member
Member of
from the
the-
public, yeah, that was appointed to just the joint planning board.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you're saying, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this, for all the stuff we've talked about, I think this encompasses it.
Okay.
And it's definitely a good starting point. And
Okay, good.
Are they gonna go along with all this?
Well, they're gonna come back with their list.
They're gonna come back with theirs. This is kind of, like we said at the start of the letter, you'll say we say in there that this is as comprehensive as possible, but we understand there may be other issues raised as the city and township discuss these agreements. So there will be further,
I'm sure there will be.
yeah. It's just the start.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the attached letter and approve submittal to the Becker Town Board.
a second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Central Mississippi Regional Partnership, otherwise known as CMRP. Mr. LaRude.
So we had a meeting a couple of Thursdays ago, barely had a quorum that was there. When they sent out the initial letter, they included some draft bylaws. Their discussion would be moving from the current JPA format to a nonprofit format, and that's what the bylaws reflected. Their goal was to move to an organization that's like the 494, the 94 coalition that was instrumental in getting the 4-lane from Maple Grove all the way up to Monticello, where it goes, I guess, 3-lane in there. Actually, eventually going to St. Cloud. And I don't know if you noticed in their documents that they sent out, it almost was reverting to a proposed kind of regional planning group, which we have said in the past we're not in favor of. And so at the meeting, we had, there was, like I said, there's only 4 people. A representative from Big Lake spoke and said they're not really in favor of moving forward with this. There was some discussion among the group that, well, let's see what these bylaws, become of these bylaws before you have to make that choice. And so I volunteered to be on the group. There's 2 county reps and 2 city reps on the group to go through the bylaws. And I told Dan Weber at Sherman County that if we're gonna do this, Becker is gonna want it to be very much oriented toward transportation. He understands that. And I think if it gets organized that way, I think there's a lot of value to us being on it, but also having the expectation that if we want people to also fight for 11 and Highway 10 and 25 and 10, and we say we're not a member of this group, that's gonna be a little hard to push. So at this point, I think we should continue with it. There'll be opportunity to back out if we so desire. If enough people leave, and I think, the township in Wright County, I don't recall, Silver Creek?
Silver Lake. Oh, yes.
They're out.
Oh, they did.
Yep, they gave their notice, they're going to give their notice. They said they gave notice, but it hadn't been received. So the CMRP as it is may go away as it is anyway. The balance of the funds, there was around 500,000, give or take. Most of that will be sent to Wright County to take the whole bridge over the river to the next process, which now is a more formal federal guided process. And so one of the counties, must take the lead on that. So CMRP has to step aside. But they put those dollars to that planning effort, and it'll be like a $1 or $1.2 million planning effort, if I'm recalling right, and the 450,000 or so that was sent by CMRP will help that process. So if it goes away or we give notice and this stays, there are provisions to get funds back, but there's not going to be that much left at this point. So I don't think that becomes a determining factor. I think it is, can we get that organization to truly be oriented only towards transportation? And so that was the sentiment of the group, and we'll have more meetings on as we go.
So let's say the group does morph into a nonprofit. The nonprofit is real, I mean, that's gonna be a whole new set of bylaws and everything else. So technically, the CMRP itself would fold then, right?
Yes.
And then you would basically you wouldn't really be morphing, you'd be closing one and reopening another, right?
I would agree with that. There'd be no reason to have CMRP around, because we don't need to meet the plan on anything else. It's truly transportation. And they talked about rebranding it to get away with any connotation that this has had for anything other than transportation, to make it very clear, just like the 94 corridor planning group. That's what it did. And so something along those lines for this group too would be in the offing in the future.
And as a nonprofit, that has a board of directors that is mostly private businesses, isn't it? Or I should say.
To be determined. There was a fair amount of sentiment by some in the room that they wanted the governments to stay in charge of it, but.
Well, that's not a.
Right, that's not a
different
true, right, exactly. So I think you defeat the purpose if you do that. So there'll have to be a different board of directors that will have to come into play.
Okay.
So I know that we had some discussion like, well, let's give notice, and I think it might be a little premature. I think there's an opportunity to just let this play out for a little bit, and if it doesn't look like it's something we want to do, I'd be happy to come back and recommend that we don't.
How many more communities have to withdraw before the whole thing folds?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how many are left. Big Lake Township gave notice, I believe.
Did they?
I haven't heard. I thought Monticello Township was.
Yeah, Monticello Township.
Okay, and so.
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
But, yeah, Big Lake, I thought, yeah.
It's getting close. 2 or 3 more will probably do it.
Yeah, because, because they definitely have gotten away from what they started out to do.
Yep. But I think it's an opportunity to refocus.
But you have a good point. Not being part of it, it's kind of hard to argue for.
There'll be other roads that'll get a priority for that group if we're not a member of it,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a bad idea to stick around right now, I guess.
Well, and if it sounds like we're basically cleaning the floor as we're ready to walk out the door, right? I mean, the group's gonna fold. I mean, it's not,
Right.
assuming it sets it up one way or another, a new group's gonna get set up.
Yep.
We're gonna have assuming it is the nonprofit, we would be a non-voting contributing member or something like that. I mean, whatever we decide, but it's a new decision.
Yep.
We go into that eyes wide open and,
But yeah, either way, you're right. The CMRP goes away.
yeah, I'm okay if we, at least we get to stick around and try and carve it the right way. Yeah, so.
Yep.
All right. Would you like to walk us through the consent agenda?
Certainly. Items for approval on tonight's consent agenda include the hiring and termination report for the Becker Community Center and revised to include Pebble Creek Golf Course. Approval of a noise exemption application for Riverside Church for a movie in Pleasant Valley Park on July 22nd. Adopt Resolution 23-69, adding a council meeting at 8 o'clock on July 17th for the annual joint fire board meeting with Becker Township. Adopt Resolution 23-70, accepting a $100 donation from Ron Hubbard for horse trail maintenance. Approve partial pay request number 1 in the amount of $130,406.19 to OMG Midwest for the 2023 Bituminous Street Improvement Project. Approve partial pay request number 8 in the amount of $1,075,178.65 to R.L. Larson Excavating for the 2022 County Road 53 Street and Utility Improvement Project. Approve partial pay request number 1 in the amount of $1,318,408.44 to R.L. Larson Excavating for the 2023 Business Park Pump Station Improvement Project. And approve pay request number 2 in the amount of $1,090,330.50 to Latour Construction for the County Road 53 to Edgewood Water Main Improvement Project. And I'll stand for any questions.
I did get a chuckle out of the Riverside Church noise exemption being located in Monticello, but that was,
Well, I wonder what movie they're showing.
I'll tell you.
Oh,
It's right
well,
in my backyard.
all right.
Yeah.
Are you inviting us over for barbecue that night? That would be tasty.
Maybe. Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Payment of the bills.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Anniversary announcements for the month of July. There are several this month. Congratulations to Mark Ebensteiner, our finance director. He is celebrating 2 years with us. Jacob Sanders is our community development director, and he's celebrating 4 years. Police officer Mike Gordon is celebrating 2, as well as Preston Voigt, our police officer, is celebrating his 2nd year with us. From Public Works, we have Roger Behringer. He is celebrating 8 years. And then Corey and Chad Clausen are celebrating 5 years each. And then Ryan Peskamp is also celebrating 4 years with us. And our longstanding Jeremy Halverson from the Wastewater Treatment Facility is celebrating 26. So he is on my list as the longest employed thus. So congratulations to those individuals. Thank you for your service. And does council have anything else for the betterment of Becker? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin.
Bye, everybody.
Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 5:38 p.m.